Hello and welcome back. I was looking through some more of the meetings and I found a slightly odd discussion around children's playground fencing and dogs. Bit of a mix there. But essentially the playground that was being discussed was at Cotman Close. And it doesn't appear to have a fence. And judging from the comments around the table, it seems that there is a problem with dogs. As in, they've received a complaint from a member of the public about a little girl being frightened by a dog. And the discussion sort of revolved around what the rules are on parks and play areas and fences and dogs. And it sort of went around the houses quite a lot for about 20 minutes or so. And a few bits in it just got me a little bit concerned because the subject of dogs and children, let alone in playgrounds, has been on the news quite a lot. And Wendy's got some strange views that one person who complains is not the public. Well, she's quite right. It's not the public, but it's a member of the public with a genuine query and complaint. And I sort of thought the council would deal with that a bit more understandingly.
218.5 to consider any measures for dog control in the town council's parks and open spaces. That's going to be a hard one. Wendy?
Yeah, this is the dogs, yes.
Yeah.
There is a problem, there's a problem, and the problem is we don't own the land. We also, I'm not sure what our signs say. If our signs actually have that say, please keep your dog under control near, you know, we've got there's signs that we have telling people, you know, what they can do and not do in our open spaces. Does it have a sign of a dog on a lead? Because
not on that one,
it
I don't
seemed
think.
to me that in some of our open spaces, obviously in places like Normanston Park, we can't do it.
I'm not quite sure what she means. In Normanston Park, it's a big area and people legitimately let their dogs off and they have a run. But the play area where the kids are is fenced. You don't take dogs through the little gate into the kids' play area. And I visit these quite a lot. Got a grandchild. And the thing that always makes me think is it's not just the animals might frighten the kids. A lot of the animals, if they're off their lead, are going to poo in a play area. I mean, it's happened to me, you know, you're in the play area looking after the kids and you stand in something, or worse, you know, the kids fall over in it. I've seen that. So fencing play areas is not just because the dogs might scare the kids. It's for sort of health reasons, really, you know. There's lots of nasty stuff that comes from dog poo. And some of it, if it gets into the kids' eyes, is pretty serious.
It's what we should be doing, is asking dog owners to keep their dogs under a lead near an open space. Now, I think, because I did a bit of research into this, that there are bylaws.
Yep, bylaws. But the discussion really should be about why doesn't it have a fence around it to stop the dogs getting in?
So we need to see if there are any bylaws already in place that means that we can have a sign saying to people, keep your dog under control, i.e. on a lead, near a children's play park.
Yeah, so with regard to the general issue, we had a resolution on this council, I just can't remember when, other than it's within the last 2 years, on whether to enforce dogs not being allowed off the lead within fenced-in play areas, i.e. so that wouldn't apply to a play area that's not fenced in because you couldn't enforce it. But I don't know whether those play areas that we have that are fenced, whether the signage does have the sign that Wendy's talking about to say, keep your dogs on the lead within this fenced in play area.
It does seem a bit odd that this particular play area isn't fenced in. All the ones that I go to are. So Cotman Close has got a play area that's just open to everybody.
With regard to Cotman Close particularly, two things I would say. We're not in a position to make a decision. I would say quarterly liaison meeting this month. There is an item on there just to broach the question and find out whether there's an appetite to consider it because of the change in the political dynamic, and we don't know whether there will be. If they are willing in principle to consider it, then there's a discussion to be had, but we don't know what the appetite is going to be until we have that meeting.
Now, I've got to say here, if a member of the public, just one, writes in and says, I'm really concerned about something, like my child was upset, scared, worried by the presence of a dog in a play area, it then gets talked about at the next council meeting. And then Andy wants to sort of not sort it out now because he doesn't have the information and he's worried about some sort of political thing. I can't see what this has got to do with political changes. I mean, surely it's got nothing to do with politics. It's got all to do with safety. So Andy wants to actually put it off yet again. If you're a member of the public and you write in, do you expect to get an answer in a reasonable amount of time, or do you expect it to be put on an agenda, talked about, and then deferred, waiting for something else? That seems a very weird way to do it to me. Now, it may be the correct political official system. If it is, the system's wrong. Because that person, that one person who wrote in and said their kid was worried by a dog, some sort of action needs to be taken. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to just put it off and see what the politics evolves into. Bizarre.
But I have also been told, and I was told before, that this play area used to be fenced. I can't remember it because it's not visible from the main road. So you literally have to go down Cotman Close and onto the field to actually see it. And I don't make a habit of going on to children's play areas on my own.
You're a councillor. You have a badge. You have a job to do. I don't think you need to worry about going onto playgrounds on your own because there'll be parents there who you can talk to.
But I take the point on there anyway, because that would have been fenced when the whole area was in Waveney District Council ownership. And if it was not maintained and it was handed over in poor condition, it was taken down. That doesn't mean it's got to go back up again, but it does imply that the removal was much more recently. But I think we need to find out what the appetite of East Suffolk Council is going to be to consider fencing so that we can fence a further distance away from the play area if we're minded to. And we won't know that until the middle of March. So I would propose just to put it on the next meeting for review without a recommendation.
Bob?
Yeah, I would say the quarterly meeting with ESC, I would think a good idea would be to ask them what their policy is as regards fencing in play areas. We would know then. As far as fencing in this area to cover the Cotman Close, like we've done all the other play areas, why can't we come to an agreement that the fencing will be put up? Yes, it's on their land. If the land is transferred to LTC, surely simply the cost of putting the fencing up would then be paid by LTC to ESC, and that would avoid all the time waiting, etc., etc. That would solve the problem because we want it fenced in for safety for children. The public have said they want it fenced in, so I don't see why this should hold us up. If they keep the land, they've got a policy. Well, I mean, we need to fence the play area in, so we just can't say we need to put it back. It needs to get done, and then whoever owns the piece of land with the fencing on pays for the bill.
I like this councillor. Never come across him before, but he's talking common sense. Sadly, followed by Wendy.
So we didn't have a fence and there were no comments or complaints. One person has complained. That is not the public, Bob. That is one person. That doesn't mean that person's opinion is irrelevant, but we don't go on one person's saying, put a fence up, if that isn't what is the best thing for us to do. We need proper information. If there was never a fence there and nobody's ever complained about it in the past, suddenly it becomes an issue. Why? That's the first question I think to ask, if it's never been an issue before. So that we need far more information. I can't remember a fence there, but then you think, well, maybe there was a fence there. But just to say, because one person has written in and said, you know, my daughter was frightened by a dog, which is a horrible experience, but then her daughter been frightened by a dog in the open space. So
I can't believe she's saying this. Every week in the news, it seems that we see some poor kid who's been bitten by an out-of-control dog. And dogs don't read signs.
I would say if we wait for the outcome of that quarterly liaison meeting in March, ask our officers to check in the meantime whether there is any record of a fence on that land being taken down in the first year, 18 months of the town council's existence, and then reconsider it in light of that information at the next aid meeting. And that would be my proposal.
okay.
The real thing that they're talking about is who's going to pay for it? Is it actually needed? Can we talk about it later? But most of the parks that I go on to in Lowestoft are fenced. And we've got one that isn't. So does that not just mean it needs a fence? Like that other councillor said, you know, it needs a fence. So get it fenced. The problem goes away. The fact that one person has brought it to your attention has been dismissed as just one person in a huge number of people. But I bet if you ask the people on that playground, they'd all give you the same answer.
Jen?
My daughter attended the nearby school there, and we regularly visited that park, and there was a fence.
And then it got a bit snappy again, I'm afraid.
One
Bob?
thing, just for clarity, it says here an email was received from a member of the public. Wendy's saying it wasn't a member of the public.
I did not say that, Bob.
No.
I said it was one person
Right.
from the public. I said it
Okay,
is, you
okay.
cannot say because one person
Right.
sends an email, the public,
Okay.
which is what you were implying.
Right. Okay. If you say that, I apologise. I thought I heard differently. Right. The one thing we need to make sure is that we do not ignore this play area with dogs and children, because we know what's happened countrywide with dogs. We don't want to be sitting here and say we've had this happen around a play area because we've just delayed. We need to make sure that our public are safe in our play areas.
Yeah.
We need to get this resolved one way or t'other, but I would strongly say we need fencing around our play areas. No.
Discussing that, Bob.
Can I
Wendy,
finish, please, Wendy? Right. And I'm sure we've discussed all our play areas in the past, having fencing round for security for children and safety.
And that seems to be the clarity of the situation. One councillor has grasped that something needs to be done for safety. And with that, have a good week. Look after yourselves. Take care.